Capítulo 5. Leta Sobierajski. Directora creativa, artista, diseñadora y fotógrafa, Leta Sobierajski ha encontrado la forma de combinar todas estas habilidades para desarrollar un estilo increíblemente diverso, desde perspectivas convencionales hasta composiciones brillantemente bizarras. Hoy nos platica cómo decidió tomar su propio camino para formar su estudio en donde cambia las reglas de la industria creativa. Leta, bienvenida a Poderosa.
My name is Leta Sobierajski. I am a creative based in Brooklyn, New York, and I run a studio with my husband, Wade, called Wade and Leta. My very beginnings in design and art start probably when I was maybe 10 or 12. I was discovering anime, things like Sailor Moon, Neon Genesis Evangelion, and I started drawing a lot of fan art. Not very well, of course, but based on that, I asked my parents for Photoshop for my birthday so that I could start scanning in my drawings and color them and put them on the internet. And so from there, I started experimenting a bit more with Photoshop, started making some of my own websites. All of that ended up being the motivation for me to start exploring a potential education in graphic design. A lot of my time in school was actually extremely hands-on, very tangible stuff. I was mixing my typography classes, my word and image classes with things like working in the wood shop. I took classes. One of my most important classes was a class based on color theory, focused on Josef Albers, Bauhaus sort of colorist, artist, educator. His theories on color, mixing color, the human perception of color, and how every person perceives it differently. We had this big box of Color Aid, which is silk screened color, and every week, staying up until, 3, 4 in the morning in this great big room, just cutting these strips of color and experimenting to see what would look good together, what created an interesting vibration, or, it's kind of like a magic trick or something. When you see an illusion that doesn't really exist, that's sort of the whole simplified concept behind these sort of theories. So that was extremely, extremely helpful, and also just something that I take with me today. It's been very important in building this space around us. I had the option to immediately out of school go into Ogilvy, which is a huge agency. It's all over the world, get a nice salary, do a lot of ad work. But my other option was working at a very small studio, which I had interned for in my second year of college. It's a studio run by one person. They have a design studio with a wood shop. Everything was extremely tangible, hands-on. We were doing a lot of stop motion there. And I learned how a small studio operates. I learned about how to answer the phone. I would see emails and how to respond to emails, how to create a presentation for a client, all things that I have to do every day now as a small studio myself. So from there, I went to a studio that was more focused on VFX and motion graphics. I hated it. It was terrible. I didn't get to do anything that I wanted to do. I did not get up from my computer ever. So I started working on some personal projects on the side. I was working on them late at night. I didn't last very long at the second job. From there, I went to a third job that was also motion graphics, a little more design oriented. And that was kind of sealing the deal that that environment just wasn't right for me anymore. It felt very, I hate to say it, but it felt extremely male dominated. I felt like I wasn't really able to speak up very much. I was not really given a lot of opportunity. I didn't feel confident. I didn't feel acknowledged. So I started focusing on personal work and really stripped my portfolio down, got rid of all of the work that I had done at these 3 jobs. And eventually I built up an entirely new portfolio with personal work, things that felt entirely like me, things that felt completely reflective of the work I wanted to do, ideally, the clients that I would want to work with, things that I personally would never say yes to, but had to because I was working at the agency or the studio. Social media became a really integral device, I guess, for me, because when Wade and I met, we started a series together called Compliments. It was a portrait series. exploring the universal strangeness of love. I remember we were at a Chinese restaurant one day in Chinatown, and we kept on refreshing our phones because Instagram posted one of our portraits. What would I tell my younger self if I could travel back to, I'd say like after I graduated college? Honestly, I would want myself to do the exact same things. Like, you have to make mistakes in order to succeed. I don't think those jobs that I hated were mistakes. I think that they were extremely important for me to experience in order for me to end up here today. They pushed me to a new territory that maybe I wouldn't have gotten to otherwise. Now I go to bed every night and I'm so excited to wake up in the morning because I think, what new opportunity is gonna happen? Like, who am I gonna hear from today? I can't wait to do all of these things in the morning. Sometimes it's hard for me to fall asleep because it's always ticking, and I love it. And yeah, I don't think it would have happened had I not suffered at these other jobs I had. What I want to tell other women in the creative industry, whether you're starting out, whether you're years into your career, is to speak out, is to be present, to make sure you're present, to make sure other people know that you're present. I think it's so important that your voice be heard. And for me, I felt like I previously didn't know how to have a dialogue, didn't know how to ask questions, didn't know how to ask what I was worth. But really, the easiest way is to, if you don't say something, nothing happens. Creating alliances with other women is something that I value so much, where we can ricochet ideas off of each other, we can ricochet pricing off of each other. But honestly, if we're not all talking about what we are worth in this industry, the industry is not going to accept it.